I grew up we moved around a lot, back and forth across the United States, and I've lived in many places. And the only time as a child that I ever went to church was for vacation Bible school in the summertime. I think that was my mother's way of getting rid of all of us for a period of time. So that was my only church going experience, was vacation Bible school, 1 week in the summer. I grew up with, I guess you could say my parents were racist. I heard the N-word often. My father would talk very poorly about black people. I grew up hearing that. It was just part of my life. Racism is a taught experience, and I think a lot of kids grow up and they just hear so much negativity that they learn it, and then they take it on, and then they're racist as well. It's just something that goes from generation to generation, which is sad. And I just thank God that that's one lesson that I didn't learn from my parents. I had to keep it a secret that my first child was black. I never even told my parents that I was pregnant until I was almost ready to deliver. And they told me that if I kept him, that I could never come home again. So when he was born, I actually put him up for adoption. And when he was a month old, I told the social worker that I wanted to see him, because all my life growing up, all I wanted was children. If you asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said I wanted 10 children. That was my life. I never said I wanted to go to school, go to college. I never wanted to do anything but be a mother. So it killed me that I had to give up my firstborn child because his skin color was brown. So I got him for a visit, and I never returned him. I kept him, and I went to my parents' house. I was living in Ohio at the time. I drove in the pouring down rain with my son in the back seat crying. I was crying all the way to my parents' house, and pleaded with them, and they told me that I could keep him and live with them as long as I told all of my relatives that he was Hispanic. When I met my husband, he had 3 sons, and I had 1 son, and then together we had 2 more sons, so that was 6, and I wanted a daughter, so I knew that that was not happening with my husband. So I became a foster parent to get a little girl. So the first little girl they placed with us is Destiny, who also attends Hope Church now. When we first got Destiny, they told us that she was always going to be delayed and she would never be normal, because when she was born, she tested positive for crack, PCP, and heroin. And I knew that wasn't true. I could see that she was brilliant. And the reason she was delayed was because the foster home she was in for the first 8 months of her life didn't stimulate her, didn't do anything with her. So she just graduated recently from UNCC on the chancellor's list. So God is amazing. This little girl who they put a label on and said was never going to be normal is beyond normal. And yeah, she just needed a family. 4 months later, we got a phone call from the social worker saying that the mother had had another baby, a baby boy. Did we want him? So we brought Isaiah home. And the following year, we got a phone call saying that the mother had given birth to another baby girl, her 7th baby. Did we want her? And the next year, we got a phone call saying the mother had had another baby boy. Did we want him? And that was my 10 children. I mean, God just set it up perfect. It just didn't have to be mine, didn't have to be biological. It didn't matter. God made sure that I got my 10 children, and God provides, I guess. When we lived in California, probably almost 20 years ago, we started attending a huge black church. There was about 5,000 members there, and I'm pretty sure I was the only white one there. But it never bothered me. I never felt like I was different. And I just, I don't know, I don't know, because I've never had an issue with seeing people differently. So I guess I'm colorblind. People say you can't be colorblind, but I really am, because I have a house full of black people living in my house. All of the children we've adopted are black. My husband's black, obviously. My children are biracial, and I'm really the only white face in my house. And I forget that I'm white sometimes. My children have to remind me that I'm white. I forget that, because I don't see this color thing that a lot of people see, which I'm glad. That's a blessing. But when we attended church in California, I never felt out of place. And I'm sure if it was reversed, and it was, I mean, I can't be sure, but I'm just saying, if a black person were to attend a church with 5,000 white members, would he feel the same? He should, but would he? And that's what's sad. Honestly, I never really understood much of what they were saying in the churches. I would sit there and I would listen, but I just kind of played along because it never made much sense to me, to be honest. And I went because I know you're supposed to go, but I really never took much from it um, until I started going to Hope Church. And it was just so different. It was like they were speaking English. I went not planning on staying there, not planning on making it my church home, not planning on loving to get up every Sunday morning and go to church, which is I can't wait to go every week. It's the highlight of my week. But when I went in there and listened to Pastor Robbie, it was like, finally, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. It was just, I understand what he's talking about. He's speaking my language. And it's just, I tell everybody, they probably wish I'd be quiet, but I tell everybody, you really need to come and try Hope Church. It's just so different than anything I've ever been in. I've learned to be patient. It's just things that I've thought before were blessings. I'm realizing the blessing is actually God and not the things He's giving me. It's like I'm in school. The way I've always viewed things, I don't view them anymore that way because Pastor Robbie has set me straight. It's like I used to think I was blessed if I got something. You know what I mean? This is such a blessing. Look what I got. And now I'm just realizing the blessing is actually your relationship with God. And I'm loving the part about everything belonging to Him and not to us, because that is true. If it weren't for Him, we wouldn't have anything. So I'm just putting all of those things in perspective in my life, and it's been amazing. Even in my 60s now, I'm finally where I should have been 40 years ago.